The clash of the Titans will highlight the weekend's Betway Premiership action when Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns face off in a game that could end the championship race as a contest. Host Pirates are desperate to close the massive gap between them and Sundowns and need to collect as many points as possible from their 4 games at hand, starting this weekend against a team that's only lost twice the entire season. Newzroom Afrika's Yolulwe Qoshe joins us now from the FNB Stadium. Yolulwe, good to speak to you this afternoon. It looks pretty chilly where you are, but action is probably going to be really hot in a moment.
Well, a very good afternoon to you in studio, Hugo, as well as to the viewers at home, of course. I would like to say a good afternoon, but it's a rather gloomy afternoon if you're being realistic, Hugo, as you've rightfully pointed out that it's, a bit chilly conditions here. But then we are expecting those fireworks, of course, on the field when these two teams do take to the field. It's also, I think, something, Hugo, that's affected the turnout. It's a better turnout now that you're here in the stadium. You're starting to see the numbers enter. And we're just going to step out of the fray a little bit so my colleague Liseko can show you some of the people and the fans that are entering the stadium in their team's respective colors. So that is the picture at the moment, Hugo. Not quite a sold-out spectacle, but it is expected to be a rather sizable affair in terms of supporters on the grandstands coming out here to support their teams. I think also, Hugo, more than just the weather, it's the effect of the game being moved into a Sunday. We know for a lot of people, Sundays mean different things. Sundays might be a day just purely for relaxation, and for others it might be a moment where they just go to church, and when they come back they don't want to do anything else. And if the kickoff is closer to the time of coming back to church, and they'd rather just watch the game on TV. Hugo, others might be coming back into the city after being home for a weekend, so that does sort of affect the sale of the tickets for a game that's on Sunday. Then we get to this situation of the weather, of course, not the best or most inviting weather for those who would have thought, okay, maybe if the tickets are still available on the Sunday to come to the stadium, it is a bit of a deterring factor to see that the sun is not quite coming out. Although over the past 2 hours or so, we have not seen any rain. There is an ominous looking cloud going over the stadium at the moment, though, Hugo, which is something that we expect to bring rain, because it is, at the end of the day, 90% chance of rain, and we've seen showers throughout the day already.
Orlando's Pirates call Orlando Stadium home, and they're no strangers to hosting matches at the FNB Stadium. How did today's venue situation come about?
Hugo, it all stems from the last Soweto derby that took place there between, ironically, Orlando Pirates also hosting at the stadium against Kaizer Chiefs. There were more people in the venue than the tickets that were sold out. It was almost like a bunch of people jumping over even into the media side of things, and then also gave the stadium management something of an alert, saying now that we need to take certain games seriously. They've got a new ticketing process as well to try and mitigate such things. But also they then saw that a fixture between Orlando Pirates and Sundowns has outgrown the Orlando Stadium, and they've sought this venue as an alternative venue for teams to come out and have enough space, for both fans to be able to enter the stadium and not have a fear of congestion and eventually a stampede, Hugo. But at the end of the day, Orlando Pirates, they are used to playing here. They've won 4 games here against Kaizer Chiefs, 3 of them being in the Betway Premiership and 1 in the Nedbank Cup in 2023. On the other side, Sundowns have also won their last couple of games here against Kaizer Chiefs. They've scored more than 4 goals on some occasions here at this very stadium against Kaizer Chiefs. So both teams will be comfortable at this stadium. They've scored goals at this stadium. They've won games at this stadium. So there should be no excuses in terms of seeing a great spectacle of football this afternoon, Hugo.
Yolulwe, we've talked about the stadium, we've talked about the fans. Now, the last time these two teams clashed, Sundowns won 4-1 and Pirates have hardly recovered since. Does that make today's game a grudge match between these two sides?
I'll tell you what, Hugo, Coach Jose Riviera of Orlando Pirates will never come out and admit that he wants to get the better of Sundowns and get revenge. As much as he's had success over Sundowns in cup competitions, he is yet to beat Masandawana in the league. So today, he'll be hoping that that will be an opportunity for him to change that particular statistic. But also the nature of that loss, a 4-1 loss in a game that was billed as a game that would determine if Sundowns and Pirates are going to be in a title race or Sundowns are going to pull away. The nature of that loss would have left a bitter taste in the mouths of the team, as well as the supporters of the team, as well as the coach, of course, who will now have to go back to the drawing board to try, and get things right once again against an old rival that he's not been able to get the better of in the league. But I must also add that in that particular week, one can argue that Orlando Pirates had not as much favor when it comes to injuries. They lost two stalwarts and a part of their spine in Thabiso Sesane at the back, as well as Talent Mbate in the midfield. So that sort of destabilized them coming into such a crunch game. They had to rely on Tapelo Qoshe coming into the game, a person that had not really had enough game time. He was thrown right into the fray. So now he'll be hoping that with a lot of other players being recovered and a lot of momentum from the players, he would have had an opportunity to have momentum and a good place and a good standing for his team to come out against Sundowns and compete.
Now, Sundowns are 18 points clear of Orlando Pirates. So they can go into this game a forward defeat. What sort of football can we expect from these two teams this afternoon? Are Sundowns insisting on a win, and Orlando Pirates, will they put up the performance?
I mean, yeah, Hugo, you've just read out, the statistic, and it also on the other side says that Pirates are 4 games in hand, but we know in football that games in hand do not really translate into points on the bag or in the bag. My apologies. So we are expecting Orlando Pirates to come out with the intent, because they understand one more loss and then it's curtains for them. That mathematics does not look good for them, no matter how many games that they have in hand, because Sundowns don't lose enough games for another team to come in and enter the fray. But when it comes to these two teams, they're both known for exciting football. Sundowns likes to keep the ball on the ground. They like to get their possession-based football. Their midfield is very strong. They congest the center of midfield. Even their wide players certainly come into the midfield and add more numbers into them. So for their side, they will be trying to exert control, especially when they know that they'll be away from home. For Orlando Pirates, they'll be looking to get a quick game in. They'll be looking to get the speedy players in so that they can get behind a Sundowns defense. And so for them, they'll also have the onus, Hugo, to come and take the game to Sundowns, because it is their home fixture. They are the ones that need to get the points on the board. So exciting game if both teams stick to that. As much as the weather is not the best, but for the players on the field, it's probably, ideal conditions, because they'll be able to run out there and get themselves warm by also making sure that there's, a good display of football on the field for the supporters to be able to cheer for on the grandstands.
Yolulwe, Qoshe coming to us from the FNB Stadium, where 1 versus 2 Lockhorns separated by 18 points after 19 minutes. That could all change.